Guys, I'm really excited because this is a live version of Career Diaries by Elamed. I'm with the amazing Michelle Wu, and we're going to talk about AI. So let's get into it. Michelle, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Wu. I'm the CEO and co-founder of NyquistAI, third-time founder, and I have always been a tech nerd and data nerd. My passion is in life science ever since my very first job. I started my career with Boston Consulting Group as a strategy consultant. Talent capital, I consult on global strategy, had amazing time. And then I have this ambition or curiosity about the industry. So I joined Novartis. I worked in Switzerland on the very first and so far the only asset swap deal in the history of pharma. A three-way merger and acquisition among Eli Lilly, GSK, and Novartis. And then I was like, oh my God, so much data. And I have to stay up all night crunching numbers and reading through the PDFs. And somewhere along the way, I was like, there got to be a smarter way. So I have this idea, the vision to have a smarter way to sift through insights through life science data. Because I feel like life science industry is a data industry, clinical trial data and even talent data. And that's where the seed was planted. I came to the US for my MBA, got my MBA at Stanford, and accidentally drank the Kool-Aid and got the bug for starting my company. I started a social media app during my first year at MBA and didn't make a lot of money and also didn't lose a lot of money. It got merged with another big social media app.
What do we know?
It's in the dating space. The human element is really, really exciting. The second one is it's a typical Silicon Valley story. Just like this coffee chat, 15 minutes, I got a term sheet of $1 million and I went on raising more. But back then, I was a terrible founder, terrible manager. I was smart, but way too arrogant. So I ran that company to the ground. That experience really humbled me and taught me so much about myself. And then my team hasn't given up on me and they made some introductions. I met my current tech co-founder. I went back to my roots in life science and worked with my amazing co-founder. Look him up on LinkedIn. He's a tech genius. We worked on the idea for life science data and how we make the industry more efficient and more. So we've been around for 5 years. We survived the 5 years. A small team, about 200 companies, 200 customers globally. So super exciting time. And recently I've been recognized as the top 100 women in AI.
Wow.
Globally.
Congrats.
So that was super cool. The first woman is my Stanford professor, Fifi Lee, and the second one is the former CTO of OpenAI. I was very honored to make that list. I always love to talk with people and nerd out on innovative stuff. So I published a book chapter on AI for healthcare. And also got a couple of articles with Forbes and the top medical device and life science journals.
Amazing. So you're definitely the right person to be speaking to when it comes to AI, for sure.
I'm a student. I'm a lifelong student, constantly learning.
So your company's been going for 5 years. You've been in this space quite early on. What are some of the big trends that you're seeing right now?
Yeah, so much is happening. And even though it's 5 years, it feels like a very long time. I feel like we're just at the beginning, scratching the surface of the change, the disruption, or also the innovative power of artificial intelligence. 5 years ago, when we started out, we were using machine learning and AI to screen all those clinical trial data, FDA data to make regulatory professional more efficient. And then when I go pitch to companies, they're like, oh, we are an AI company. And they're like, what AI stand for? It depends on, who we talk with. If it's a pharma company, it's like, is it API, active pharmaceutical ingredient? Or if it's medical device, they'll be like, is this aortic implant? They have no idea what AI is, even those wiki-smart MD and PhDs. So we're like, no, we are a database. We're like a Bloomberg or Google. We are a search engine for all those critical insights for you to file your FDA submissions of a 510K or do your CER and do your clinical trial protocols. I feel like from 2020 to 2022, during the hype of COVID, but it's also the most innovative and most free-thinking phase for our industry. So when it comes to AI, people have this naivete, but also I'm going to try it. That phase is all in AI phase. Like we've seen the news, the leadership from like Johnson & Johnson, they're like, oh, we're all in AI. And then when COVID finished, like we finally came out of COVID, I see the second phase of, like big trends where a lot of companies, large enterprise customers at the top 10 global medical device companies, like, oh, we need to work with OpenAI, we need to work with Microsoft Copilot. They are all amazing companies, big tech. I'm from Silicon Valley. All my friends work for Google and Microsoft. They have a grand vision. They overestimate the power of AI's immediate ROI. And underestimate what is, the huge undertake of time, education, and change management. Since you are the experts of talent, change takes time. We went to the second phase of buyer remorse. It's not owing, let's pause, why we haven't seen the return of AI. There's a couple of very interesting articles that I can embed in this video about like the research from MIT and Anthropic interviewed 80% of their enterprise clients. 2 years later, it's like almost like 80% of them say like, oh, we haven't seen the return as we expected yet. Now we're entering.
Can I ask you, why do you think that they haven't seen the return?
So that's a great question. When it comes to life science, when you design a clinical trial, having an endpoint, even though it's, makeup or artificial endpoint, is already 50% of success, because having a goal is super important. And regardless what the goal is. But a lot of people, a lot of enterprise, like we have 200 customers, we've seen like they come to this AI fantasy lands, like it's like, okay, it is going to be magic. And they haven't quite set the goals, like, okay, what's our expectation? What success looks like? What's the timeline and milestone? They're like, oh, let's throw money at those tools and see what it comes out. And to start with, they don't even have a benchmark or goal in mind. And second is like a lot of companies, like especially large enterprise, they have a lot of confidence and beliefs in their own data. And they think their internal clinical trial data is so rich and so valuable, which is potentially true. But at the same time, they may not have the infrastructure or talent to make sure the data is clean, data is meaningful. So when there's like, oh, we have this pile of clinical trial data for a former FDA submission, any foundation model on top of it is like cooking. The ingredient is good, and like whatever come out of it must be good. But it's not. It's almost like garbage in, garbage out. So, and it's so like a lot of leadership team are not like satisfied with the result. And three is the whole organizational change that needs to happen to truly unlock the AI potential. A lot of the leaders like, okay, we're all in AI, like, AI is going to be great. And I went to JP Morgan Healthcare every year, and I have a lot of executives who are my mentors or friends. It's like, I was like, hey, John or Mary, like you just got this amazing interview. Congratulations on features on Forbes. You said you own AI, but what does it mean? What does it mean? Which function,
It sounds great though.
What's your budget? What's your ideal ROI? They're like, my team will figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. So they have this grand goal in mind, and then like the people under the C-level was like, wow, gosh, like what does it mean? Like they're scrambling to figure it out to really satisfy the leadership rather than get to the insights, get to the winning case from bottom up. So if the change happens top down, out a lot of clarity, it's like, giving my old data at BCG as a strategic management, strategic consultant, it's a recipe for organizational disaster.
Why?
Because if everything happens from the top without clear guidance and leadership, then the teams there's a lot of disconnect in communication, in vision, like in execution.
If a company is like, I want to do something with AI, I know it's important, everyone's talking about it, we're all in when it comes to AI, what's your advice in terms of like how should they move forwards from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And technology is moving so fast. Like my answer today may be very different from my answer will be like in 3 months or 6 months. So like, I think there's three things. First, to make sure like the data infrastructure is there. For any company, you need to have the proper training set to make sure that whether it's in regulatory affairs or for clinical or medical, you have the specific data to power your tasks. Not all AI is created the same. As a tech nerd from Silicon Valley, I'm a big fan of superhero movies.
Okay.
It's like with great power, like Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility, and with great data comes great AI. And not all AI are created equal. Like leadership really need to understand the data infrastructure. So number one, that's the number one success factor to win in the owning AI strategy. And number two is to have the right organization structures. If you're a mom, if you tell your kids like go do something, like they may not do it. You need to really have the systematic organizational change to have the right incentives and the right organization structure, either to set up a center of excellence for AI, or have a periodical sharing and periodical like market research, like what's the new technology out there, like how we are using it, tracking the user activities internally, track the success stories internally. So like to have all the organizational like incentives, like the right organization structure for the right AI is the second key success factor when in the AI race. And number three is the shift of mindset. I'm really into, mind game or brain hacking. And people there's a lot of research on biohacking, but I think recently there's a lot of cool books coming out that if we can unlock our brain's potential, our heart's potential, there is so much more to achieve. So really distill the culture of encourage people to try, and it's okay to make mistakes. Previously, it's not big no. And coming from a very traditional pharmaceutical industry, and have that dynamic, open culture to really in all those mini use cases to thrive, to have a room to breathe and experiment is very, very critical. So right data, right organization, right culture to make sure the AI wins.
So then drilling down more into that, so like how would you know if you have good data?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question. So three things. First, you look at the data scope. Second, you look at the quality of the data, whether it's traceable and whether you can verify it. And three, you look at how the data is linked, where machine learning is built. I know it sounds very theoretical, so I can take an example like a regulatory intelligence for medical device companies. Now they are in ever-changing, fast-paced environment with tariffs. They need to look at the global market, and with all those different innovations happening around the world, surgical robotics, artificial heart. No one will have the perfect knowledge for everything. This is where AI comes in. So first for a regulatory intelligence, you want to make sure the data scope is large enough that you can cover all the critical geography and critical regulatory bodies, insights, guidance, standards, the competitor intelligence, like a product information, so on and so forth. And number two is the quality of the data. It has to be traceable and it has to be able to verify. A lot of the challenge we've seen from our clients, and also we experience ourselves, is like how do we build trust in the AI tools that we are using? How do we verify? In our product design, we always embed the original source. Here's the result. Here's the summary by NyquistAI. But if you want to check more, here's all the highlight quotes and sources. For people like regulatory professionals, they are very cautious, rightly so that they can verify. And three is you need to be able to explain the linkage. How does AI come to search for insights? For example, a top company was looking for competitors for pediatric use of certain products. And our search surfaced the term adolescent under the age of 14. So you need to be able to make that data linkage. This is where AI comes to play.
So if a company doesn't have good data, can they borrow somebody else's?
I think data is gold. AI will very soon become a commodity. Like I said that two years ago when OpenAI just coming out, and there was other players, character AI, Coherence AI and Anthropic and Amazon, but very quickly we've seen the winners of foundational model is becoming very, very clear. And foundation model is so general. They are great to help you, rewrite an email or build on other content. But for life science, especially regulatory affairs, they lack the training data. If you can take one thing from our conversation, it's training data. The training data set of regulatory intelligence is missing for all those general foundation models. They really need that specificity to make sure AI is useful for our professionals.
So say I'm a VP of Regulatory Affairs and my CEO has asked me the question, what are we doing when it comes to AI? And I know that I should be doing something, but I'm not really doing anything right now. What would you say is the one thing that I should do to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a challenging environment right now that our whole industry globally is facing some pressure, like cost pressure and budget cuts, headcount freeze, but they are also tasked with this grand audacious goal to produce more and have more submissions. So that's definitely a challenge. The quick one we have seen is like a regulatory intelligence.
Okay.
So they can leverage AI to look at for all the competitors and all the global market. Maybe there is a product sector they haven't thought about.
Okay.
Maybe there is a breakthrough designation or faster approval that they were not aware of. Previously, regulatory affair has been highly regarded because, the people's tribal knowledge or institutional knowledge. And AI is amazing in democratizing tribal knowledge to power innovation. So if the VP of Regulatory Affairs want to get further or more advanced in the decision-making process, which we have seen from some of our users, they can leverage regulatory intelligence to quickly look at how to come up with an answer to the board, say, hey, should we go to Europe or should we launch the second product, second indication in the US? And the regulatory affair VPs are faced with visionary or crazy or random questions every single day from chief of clinical trial officers, clinical trial operation, VP of commercial, BD, or should we acquire another asset? Then they compare with traditionally takes them 2 days to review everything, even a cross-functional discussion. They can come up with a quick answer to get the discussion going. So they are moving from the back-end office as their traditional position to be further advanced in the decision-making chain.
So it actually can give you a competitive advantage because you can use it to unlock new markets, and there is your use case for ROI, right? If you can open a new market and it was because the AI helped you identify that and you got that moving quickly, ultimately leadership are driven by bottom line. That's really what they're interested to know about. So it elevates regulatory affairs to be more of a strategic business partner rather than just a person that has the technical information. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's really true. Traditionally, a regulatory affair has been viewed as a cost center or no person. But here is a regulatory, because it could be, revenue generating function by saying hey, have we thought about this new area or this is an easy add-on indication, we can file for another 510K, so on and so forth.
So over the last 5 years, you're working with companies that have adopted AI and there was this real energy at the beginning and then it tailed off. What are some of the struggles that you're seeing with companies?
So that's a loaded question. Companies are really like people, and you deal with talents and executives all the time. People will only change in 4 seasons. First, it hurts so much that people have to change. Second, they've learned enough so that they are ready to change. Number 3, they've been offered so much so they have the time to give to change. And 3 is they're just very proactive to change. So we've seen only actually 20% of our enterprise clients who are using our solutions, 20% of the early adopters who are just like you, very innovative, always out there to search for new ways to advance their careers. Before last night, I was doing some homework for our podcast. LinkedIn have research that they've seen, even though hiring has been slowing down, and people who have AI literacy know how to use AI, not necessarily need to code out or build out AI, but really know how to harness AI and leverage them in their work, have reported 68% of increase, either on their like title, on their role, or on their like salary.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have seen that too. It's almost like a guaranteed thing. We look at the user activities. We are super cautious about data privacy and data security. We don't track anything of our users. We don't train on our user data, but we do look at just numbers of activities. It's almost guaranteed that if we see top active users 6 to 18 months down the road, I open up my LinkedIn, they got a promotion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think it's because we're really seeing that companies want people. So there's this feeling of we need to do something.
Yeah.
So who knows how we can do it, right? And the truth is that nobody really is an expert because it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
It's constantly a work in progress, right? So there's not an end goal of I do a certificate, now I'm an expert, now I know what I'm doing and I can move forward. It's this concept of almost like the infinite game by Simon Sinek, right? It's just like you're constantly improving and evolving, and it's about staying in the game and like constantly learning how to use it and adapting. So if you get in the game and you start playing the game, all of a sudden you're more desirable as a candidate, right? Because you have that skill set and more importantly, that practical experience. And so for companies, that becomes invaluable. So that's super interesting. What are some of the other struggles that you're seeing?
Other struggles that when like companies and evaluating the ROI of the tools, for example, like efficiency gain or revenue generated, they don't have a baseline to start with.
So important.
So they overcomplicate the whole AI decision-making process. So we have seen, big guys hiring the BCGs and McKinsey of the world, like, okay, help us map out their AI roadmap. So I come from BCG, one ask from BCG is like, the starting ticket is like at least 1 million. So they hire those strategic consultants to spend 8 weeks or like it depends on the scope, like 8 weeks minimum to help the leadership map out where are the AI roadmap and where they could see winning. I think the exercise is very important, but maybe does not need to be, $1 million, like a fancy consulting, strategic consulting firms or 8 weeks. Because guess what? In 8 weeks, like the AI fundamental is different. And the use case could be very different. All the companies that have, like, especially the large ones, they have this fantasy of like, I need one tool that is all like, I have this dream love of my life.
Yeah.
Like this person will have all the good qualities that I want. At the same time, fits all my needs. That person does not exist in real life. So when it comes to AI tools, no one AI tool is going to fit all the requirements and all this like tasks. So like I think companies like having the broad understanding of like, okay, here's like a rough idea where are we going, and allow different function and different tasks to start experiment. Like have the small one and quick one is very critical because when they, Sanofi has launched like this company-wide AI tool, and it was the talk of the industry 2 years ago. Now their IT pull out every month they see the activity report pretty low compared with what they envisioned. Like everyone would use it, and the Microsoft Copilot also feels some adoption challenges with enterprise. There is a large law firm, it's a public information and news, like they give up $1 million as a bonus for any lawyers to come up with the most prompts. But the number of prompts does not equal the quality of prompts or the actual efficiency gain. So I think companies are replicating their decisions and having the wrong KPI or wrong incentives to really drive AI adoption.
So it's really about offering opportunities for people in your team to experiment. Give me some examples of experiments that people could do to get started.
Yeah. So like we have this amazing client. They are not our top revenue client, but we learn so much from them and they are constantly growing. One thing I think there is a couple things that they did right. So first, the decisions come from the leadership, but it's not like, we really need to own AI. It's like, hey guys, this is for you. Right. It's not for the organization. You can leverage this opportunity from the organization to advance your career. Okay. It's almost like the company is paying you to be more capable in your job. Number one is the empowerment from the leadership team. Number two is they have the guardrails in place, like limited bound.
Okay.
It's almost like, okay, children, here's the playground. Anything you want to do, if you want to play with the slides or swing or like sandbox, here's your safe play. We worked with our security team, data privacy team, IT team, business team, and finance team early on to have a framework to say, okay, what's our cost and timeline, and what are the things they can use or cannot use to set the framework. And three is, provide access to people for them to try out, have a healthy, collaborative, but also competitive environments. Like, okay, today, John have an amazing use case to share, and next week, Mary has an amazing use case to share. So that has been like very, very helpful. What has been not working is like, I've heard like companies that say, okay, we've already paid OpenAI, we have this company-wide like GPT and medical device GPT or something, and we need to use it, but they are not giving people the right incentives or training or tools. It's almost like doing a homework that people hate. So instead of showing efficiency or empowering people, there's like, oh my God, there's another thing that I had to deal with to satisfy my boss. This is a big no-no for drive AI adoption.
Why do you think there's this resistance from people at a tactical level to use something that's going to help them move their career forward, make them more efficient? Like, why would they not want to use that?
The first is the lack of education, onboarding and training. And now almost everyone we know, how to use Google, how to ask a question or like generate keywords. But Google has been around for 25 and 26 years.
Yeah.
When we were children, before our generation, people were just memorizing the URL code, the lines, and go to Yahoo or other website, read pages to pages and come up with their own understanding.
Yes.
So Google likes to spend like a good amount of 3 decades to train people how to come up with a question. So now it's almost like a second nature. We just go to Google and to search like, hey, what is a good coffee shop around here? Like what's the topics of raps? What are the cool AI trends, so on and so forth. And when it comes to AI, take a prompt engineer as an example. Life science people, regulatory people are not used to come up with a prompt. It sounds so intuitive, but people need to have, what's the recipe? What are the structure? What's the framework that I can ask? And each tool have their advantage and limitations. And what we have seen is IT team or the business team, leadership team out of their good heart, rush to get a vendor and bring the vendor in. And people's like, why? We're already very busy. We were just and we get the login, the password, and then nobody, come to tell us anything. Nobody is like, hey, how are you using it? What are the use case? Oh, in your role, have you tried this? And have you tried that? So there's a long way to go for training and onboarding. The number one missing element is training and onboarding. Number two is the lack of incentives in place. And people are very busy in regulatory affairs. They are constantly have to deal with change of different regulatory bodies, cross-functional education, and also safeguards like protect the patients and protect the company and make sure the company doing the right thing. Under the either the incentives or aspiration to satisfy investors and satisfy their shareholders. So it's already a very complex job. So not having the right incentives, just you have to do it. Every day you need to open Microsoft and do one prompt. So people will ask why? What's in it for? What is in it for my work? So the second failure reason is lack the proper incentives. And three actually is very, very minimal. 5% of the reason why people resist to use AI or the AI adoption is so low is people just simply do not have the time. But I always say if things are good, they will find the time. I have so many friends who have kids. They're just addicted to TikTok, addicted to video game because it's so fun. It gives them a lot of satisfaction. If the AI tool is good enough, people will find time to use it. So you can see all the three reasons first, lack of proper education of AI and specific tools of onboarding. Second is lack the right incentive, and instead of incentivize people to use AI, they force people to use AI. And number three is time limitation. All of them are interlinked. Because lack of training, like them, and the lack incentive, they're just find the excuse like, I don't have the time for the AI tool.
So it's like, do you think though that there's a little bit of fear there?
Yeah, definitely. People are like, I have no time. It's like, this is a fair,
surface level
for fair. Like people just worry about making mistakes. People are worried about AI, replacing them. They are losing their job. There's another great article, research published by both OpenAI and Anthropic. I will send you the link. The Anthropic analyzed all those prompts and they mapped it to 700 occupations based on the content of the prompt, and calculated, analyzed the ratios of automation and augmentation. So what's the difference between automation and augmentation? Automation is like AI can do the task from end to end. There's no need of human anymore. And it may sound very scary to regulatory professionals. And augmentation is like, okay, think of AI as your intern or your buddy. Like you are the master. You gave humans are the master. You gave AI a task, and you need to, educate it, instruct it, and have like a checkpoint at different milestones. So the task cannot be completely finished by AI. So that's the definition of augmentation. And depends on this, when it comes to regulatory affair is definitely in the 700 occupations that will be either augmented or automated by AI. And what is very fascinating is like regulatory specialists, their task can be, do you want to guess the percentage of augmentation?
Augmentation, or not automation.
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 Yeah.
60%?
It's less. It's around 20%.
Okay.
Yeah, 20%. But when it comes to regulatory managers, it needs leadership, strategy, and interactions with a human that cannot be replaced by AI yet. That ratio dropped to 15%.
So 15% of what they are doing could be automated by AI. So 75% of what they're doing still needs to be done by a human. So actually, it's not coming for their jobs.
This is research in August. We can have a follow-on sequel.
We'll have a part 2 in a year and see where we are. I have another question for you. It sounds like there's so much to do. It's such a big thing. I can really see people feeling overwhelmed and overloaded by the concept of, okay, where do I actually start? What can they do to avoid AI overload?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've seen AI exhaustion, like AI fatigue.
What is AI fatigue?
People are just sick and tired of hear AI. Like, like you open the news and it's like, OpenAI is coming up for your job, or Sam Altman said, like, 5,000 jobs will be eliminated in 1 year. Artificial intelligence is going to replace human species. What's scary news? I'm very fortunate. I'm trusted across like different career stages of people. So I have, people who are regulatory interns that I mentor. So like they confess with me like, oh my God, I'm about to enter the job market, and the labor status in US is really gloomy. Like, will I ever have a job because of AI? Or like I hear from young professional in regulatory affairs, like, oh my God, Michelle, I have this fear of missing out, like almost FOMO of AI, but what does it mean for my career? My boss was interested to learn, but we don't even know where to start. And then for the decision makers, my inbox or my LinkedIn DM is filled out with vendors who try to sell me AI, but they all start to look the same. The pitches is the same, and like I'm just bombarded with unbelievable amount of outbound sales calls. This is and it's very noisy now, especially when it comes to regulatory professionals, how to use AI tools. There's like there's like AI copilot is your regulatory copilot, co-author. There's a lot of co-AI stuff. How to avoid AI overload? First, let's zoom into how do you select a project or tool you want to partner with. People's time, we don't have unlimited time,
Yes.
unlimited budget, unlimited energy to try things. So there's a good framework to decide what tests to experiment with
Okay.
AI and how to evaluate AI vendors.
Let's go in. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, because I've been on the other side of the table. I come from pharma. I come from the buyer side,
Yeah.
and now I'm a strategic partner. I don't like to call myself tech vendor. I wanted to call myself a strategic partner to help the pharma and medical device company to get where they are. I've seen the struggle on both ends.
Yeah.
So number one, to avoid AI overload, picking tasks is very important. There's only two things you need to worry about. First, do you have the training set for this particular task? And second, do you have a benchmark? We talk about benchmark from the early, like at the very beginning of our conversation. How do you have a benchmark of success? What does it mean? Take, regulatory strategy or labeling draft as an example. If you want to use AI to write a submission or clinical trial protocol, do we have the right training set to teach AI how to write a clinical trial protocol or like a regulatory submission? We need to have the success data, like, okay, what are the submission got approved by the FDA? And also we need the failure data. What are the submission that got rejected by the FDA? It's similar with clinical trials. The failure in clinical trials is even more valuable than the trials that succeeded. So whether you want to leverage AI to do the clinical trial protocol writing or labeling regulatory submission, you need to look at first, do we have the right training data for AI to complete that task? And number two is the benchmark. What is good look like? And
give me an example though. So this is quite theoretical. So take me to what does good actually look like?
So when it comes to why AI can replace software engineers, especially junior software engineers, is like there's industry standards of what clean, good code means. There's no bug. But when it comes to regulatory submission, there's no really good standards of what good looks like. I've taught at different universities, and we have teachers and professors teach students how to write a 510K submission, how to write a regulatory submission like IND. And some professors, like, we need to be very, very precise. They have run-on sentences with a lot of adjectives. Some professors like very concise, short sentence to the point. So because the lack of benchmark of what good looks like, either for your industry or the organization, it's very hard for AI to do that task. For regulatory intelligence, we want to understand the competitive landscape for surgical robotics globally. So take this task example. We want to see if AI can help us with it. Number one, do we have the training set? Yes, we do. With the FDA, China's MPA, Japan PMDA, they have all released information about clinical trials carrying on globally, and also, products that medical devices that has been approved that have surgical robotics as their definition. So we have the training set. Do we have the benchmark of good? We want to get the regulatory intelligence timely on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis. What good looks like is we are sure, all the key markets like US, Canada, Japan, and Europe, all the key markets are covered. Excellent. And number three is we can verify. We can go to the source to verify that all the data is true. We can look at the original approval documents. So in this particular case, it's a winning case because we have the training data set, we have a good benchmark.
So just one thing I want to clarify. When you say, do we have the data set, what you're talking more, if I understand well, it's like, does the data exist? It doesn't necessarily mean that the company has the data.
Exactly.
But it's like, is the data out there? So the data might be publicly available.
Like a vendor can give you
access to that data. So it's not just does my company have the data? Does the data exist for us to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And then the second thing you said was, I've lost my train of thought. Benchmark of what good looks like. Okay, so then the data, does it exist? Yes.
Yeah.
Do we benchmark very clearly in terms of what good looks like for it to produce? Yes. So then how do you measure ROI?
Yes.
So how do you take that next step?
Like what is time compared with a human? This exercise has already been performed by human experts. What's the time and efforts take by humans and versus you just do a quick search, a platform, and then get the automated reports.
So let's say a company says, right, I'm going to use this example that we've just done. So we're going to move forward with a pilot case, a test case. We're going to experiment, use this for regulatory intelligence. The data exists, check. what good looks like, check, so we're going to make this investment. How do they then measure, let's say they're going to feed back to the CEO on ROI of this pilot case? How would they measure the ROI of doing this pilot case?
That's a great question and very simple. You could be a regulatory VP or at least a advisor for them when they make AI adoptions. You could open up another service like AI strategy consulting. Yeah. This is very good. So if I'm a VP of regulatory affairs, I pilot with this tool and then I want to present to other sectors the ROI. This is a two-part. First, revenue gains, the top line, impact on top line, and second, impact on the bottom line. And now at the third, the emotional element, how people feel. They feel more confident, more empowered, they're make the organization actually care to make regulatory professionals, regulatory team life easier rather than harder. That is very critical. So revenue generation, we have seen companies by leveraging regulatory intelligence to find new opportunity and
new market. That's a really clear use case, right?
Yeah. And even they find new products. When they look at the FDA mold database and adverse events, they say, oh, with this a surgical robotic, the surgery is very successful, but it may have some side effect as thermal burn, because when the surgery robots cut patients, they may be too hot. But this could also be an opportunity. They can develop another line of product to cure with thermal burn because they already have the surgical robotic on the market. So they not only they find new opportunities, they also find new product ideas. This is a revenue generation part. On the efficiencies, we have seen a lot of companies take 20 minutes of test. They gave the user like a therapeutic area or a product for them to research for 20 minutes, and it need to be timed. See okay, what they get from a manual or traditional or classic way to going on Google, going to the website, or going to everything, and then they show them the tool, teach them how to write the prompt or how to do a search, and boom, in 20 minutes, what do they get? And do a comparison, what they get on their own, AI didn't capture, and also what AI can capture that they missed. So it's a very clear, comparison, apple-to-apple comparison.
So you need to have the baseline before you start. Where are we coming from?
Yeah.
And then you're looking either for impact on top line or impact on bottom line. A lot of the time, especially in regulatory affairs, there is very strong efficiency gain. So that's really interesting.
And the third element is we didn't pitch to the VP of Regulatory Affairs or Chief Regulatory Officer early on, but we start to find out through our engagement with the users. They are actually very happy. They're oh my God, we have booth reps and so many I no longer call them my customer and user, I call them my friends, because I really care. I'm really happy that they're winning. They said, oh my God, I'm just so happy. They saved me 1 hour of time. I feel like I'm regaining my life. I'm a busy mom. I have 5 PMAs or 1 clinical trials I have to work on. But now with the AI tools, I can walk my dog, I can spend time with my children. I don't need to do the busy work.
Yeah, and I think that it does have that impact on retention as an employer, right? I do believe we're going to be at a point where, in the same way that companies will evaluate candidate skill sets before they hire someone, of how are you using AI, right? And it will very soon become a differentiator, because if everyone else is and you're the one that's not, that will also impact your prospects career-wise. But I do believe for companies to really attract really good people, those candidates that are used to using AI, different tools and stuff like that, when they're joining a company, they will be asking at interview, what does your tech stack look like?
Yeah.
What are the tools that you offer to your teams in order to empower them to be better, more efficient, so they can really focus on the human side of the work?
Yeah.
And then as a hiring manager, if you're basically turning around and saying nothing, Microsoft and email and that's it, that's going to impact whether people are going to want to join your team or not. I think that in particular, the companies that we're seeing win right now are the smaller companies, not so much the big companies. Because the big companies are these massive, heavy machines, a lot of red tape. They're not really, it's really difficult to move things in these big companies. Smaller companies can take faster decisions of, we're going to test that, we're going to give it a go. If we like it, we're going to go with it. If not, we're going to kill it. And so actually, people that are working in these small organizations, they're having more exposure to more interesting tech stacks, to experimenting more with AI. And so, when evaluating career prospects, if they're looking at large organizations and they're saying, what are you guys doing? And the answer is nothing, because we've been stalling, because we've got red tape, because we're trying to build our own thing and it's taken like 2 years to build something, and actually then we built it and it doesn't really work, so now we're changing our strategy. That's going to make you as an employer less attractive. So you're going to get less good talent, right? And all the good people are going to go elsewhere. So it's not just like top line ROI and efficiency gains, but it's also employer branding, retention, there's all of that as well to really consider.
Absolutely. I think that for like, I've sat down with all the top 10 medical device company executives I've had from VP above, like 86% of them told me like, we are really not using AI and we are not using the AI tools correctly. And it's like, I have my Copilot myself. The last time I opened it is, when the IT install me, I make sure I can log in and that's it. And what we have seen, like a fascinating trend is where like, the mid-cap market, like they are the rising star. They want to become, the heavy hitters like the Medtronic of the world. And also they have a slightly smaller team. We talk of 4 seasons of change. People have to have the pain to change, are willing to change and learn, and they don't have that resources. They don't have an army of people doing regulatory like intelligence globally. They don't have an army of people just doing regulatory publishing check. That's manual process. So they have to innovate. They have to adapt. So they almost like have this AI employee as their buddies to the human experts that pair with their experience. We have seen a lot of wins, surprisingly, from the mid-cap market.
So if you're in a small company or a mid-sized company, actually, you have a competitive advantage to actually get started and leverage this. So start. It's the feedback, right? Don't wait. Just move forward. Where do you see this going?
I want to have a disclaimer. I can only see 3 months, 6 months, or just 3 months ahead because the industry is changing so quickly. AI is changing so quickly. What I see is that the future will have more and more AI employees besides human employees, because the regulatory VPs, they are not going to have the huge budget, and they are also thinking strategically now. Like, okay, instead of previously, they want an army of people that they can manage and lead. How big the headcount they have is equal to how big their influence and power within the organization is. Like, this is going to change completely. We will have nimble but mighty regulatory teams within the organization. What I see in the future is AI agents will have a lot of potential in regulatory affairs, both consulting firms or manufacturers. People will be more comfortable instead of, there's 2 elements, like upskill people to use AI to motivate them or scare them a little bit so that they need to change. That is going to happen gradually. But where we see the huge uptake is AI agents. Have an AI agent do your competitor analysis, warning call alert, or periodically look at change of SOP versus global guidance. That has a huge uptake. Like people are, especially the leadership team, are very happy to adopt the AI agents as in their workforce. The team is happy because they are fed up with the busy work. A lot of people say, especially in the mid-level, oh my God, I used to be so good at searching on the FDA. I can memorize the guidance back to back. And now AI is taking all that away. Don't worry, it's also opened up a new skills, a new space and possibility for you to upskill and learn something new. It's almost like if people are obsessed with tedious manual tasks in regulatory affairs, it's almost like they're trapped in a toxic relationship. They're so busy, get by, that they haven't, lift their head up and see what's the option out there. And by AI augmenting and automating some of the tedious works, it really gave the regulatory affairs a new fresh air. I think the goal, the scope of regulatory affairs, is going to evolve very quickly. Previously, they were known as the no person. You say no to everything. And now they are seen as beyond operational. They have some revenue element. In the future, whether they will be a core strategic center, then the corporate strategies, here's the therapeutic areas we need to go. Here's the country and indication we need to prioritize. regulatory input is going to be so important, so beneficial to help companies make sure that they have the best in class or first in class model that they can really win the market share.
So what's one piece of actionable advice that people can go and do right now to get started?
Yeah, I debate this a lot. There's no one silver bullet for it, but at the same time, for former like FDA hotshot, because we have like 20 customer or friends that are former FDA officials using our platform to interns who have no real life experience of regulatory yet. I think one piece of advice is start to experiment today. Start small. Start with regulatory intelligence and experience how AI can take away the tedious work, the computing power, speed, and also the mistake they will make. And then take it from there. Start experimenting today. Start experimenting small and constantly change from it. It doesn't need to be like a month of strategic visioning or a roadmap. Every day, 5 minutes, or every week, 5 minutes is going to make a huge difference.
Because it's building the muscle ultimately, right? So it's actually, even like putting some time on your, actually dedicating time.
Have a block your calendar, like 5 minutes for AI.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So final question that I love to ask everybody on the podcast. What is the legacy that you want to leave on the world?
Wow, I feel like it's such a privilege to build Nyquist. The universe or the magic beyond my comprehension has taken me on this wild journey. I feel so privileged to talk and exchange ideas, have this strategic discussion as a leader like you. I feel so privileged. I have a front seat of AI changes in Silicon Valley and all the dramas and all the wins and all the tears. And I feel so privileged to witness the wins of our customer and now friends who get their promotion, get the breakthrough designation. The legacy I want to leave behind is when people say, oh, I have this breakthrough designation thanks to Nyquist, or like, wow, I really get my dream job that thanks to we have an education program that people really know how to use AI. My goal is to democratize the tribal knowledge to really power innovation.
I love that. Michelle, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers, everyone.